everyone, it's Amber. So I am here to talk today about how to handle anger or any other strong emotions that you may be feeling, especially when it's triggered in the moment. So first, we are to feel angry. Just sit there with your anger and feel it, and notice maybe on your body where it hurts, like maybe your chest feels tight, maybe your fists hurt, your arms hurt, like are tight because they want to act. Just feel angry. And then when you feel like you have enough time, like when you feel like you've been given enough time to feel angry and just sit in that, and you know you've had enough time because your anger feels like you felt it and you feel more relaxed as a result. So you don't feel as, like usually when I feel angry, I want to take action. So I feel less like I want to take action and I feel more just aware. And then when you feel like you've been given enough time, identify what circumstances made you feel angry and why it struck anger. So what were the circumstances, what environment, what situation, what was said that made you feel angry? And then why did that make you feel angry? Did it make you feel angry because it reminded you of someone that you had a bad relationship with? Either a relative or a relationship, friend, significant other who maybe did a similar thing. Is that why you felt angry? Did you feel angry because you felt like you didn't have any control? Which kind of goes into the next one, which is identifying any other emotions or fear involved. So are you afraid that they were going to leave you and that's why it made you feel angry? Or was it not anger? Maybe you didn't feel angry. Maybe instead you felt betrayed. Maybe you felt scared to be left. You felt vulnerable. You felt exposed, perhaps, if they said something about you, or just the circumstance itself made you feel exposed. There's so many other options, but those are just a few deeper emotions behind the anger that I think are really important to identify. A, because it goes into the next step, and B, because once you identify them, you can better understand yourself. So once you know yourself better, you're able to say, oh, like, I feel angry oftentimes when it's a previous occurrence that happened again. Just identifying where it comes from is very helpful, and knowing yourself and doing self-reflection on that. Step number 4 is to tell with wisdom. So with reservation, wisdom, or write down if you have time or when you have time. Tell the person who was in the situation that made you feel angry how you felt and why. So I say with wisdom and reservation because not every circumstance when you feel angry is important to express to that person. Not important. I guess beneficial. It's not beneficial to express it to that person. Some examples where it might be better not to express anger would be like if it's a circumstance where you don't have time and you won't see that person later to express it. So for example, the common, you're driving somewhere and someone cuts you off and you feel really angry, like, oh, I'm in a hurry too, and you didn't respect that I was in a hurry. It was more important that you got in front of me. But you have two options. One, express anger in a way that won't be received as calm because you're not calm, or, well, you're probably not calm, let's be honest, or you don't respond at all. And that's, I would say, a place of wisdom where like it might be better not to respond because it won't be received. You can't have a communication. Like that's I would say, yeah. So circumstances where you can't have, like, you don't have the opportunity to have communication about it. So that would be an example where that would be true. Another example would be you wouldn't express, it might not be best to express anger, or it might not be beneficial. It might not be beneficial to express anger if it's an isolated incident and it doesn't provoke enough in you to be worth expressing. So let's say you're in class, and someone reaches over and grabs your pen for a moment and puts it back, and that's the only time they ever did it, and it makes you a little bit angry because it's like, wow, like that's not even your pen to use, and you took it without asking. But at the end of the day, like, they gave it back, and It's just a random classmate that you don't know. And so it was across a boundary, but it wasn't significant enough to state or to express. Maybe you'd rather express it. I think that's okay too. I just think, like, in circumstances that are isolated, where that's the only instance of it occurring, it's not as crucial to express unless it makes you really upset. Like, let's say you were bullied at school and this person took your pen to use and put it back, and something that they would do in school is take all your pens so you couldn't take notes in class. I know it's a very specific example, but like, you might find that worth it then to say, like, hey, like, you took my pen in class today to borrow, and I just prefer you don't do that. Like, if it's someone you're not wanting to have a relationship with, you don't have to share the whole backstory. You can just express, like, this is this and this is what I'd prefer. I think that's also boundary setting. Like, for example, but you could also just say, like, hey, it made me upset that you took my pen in class today, and they'd be like, oh, sorry, or like, oh, get over it. Either way, like, whatever their reaction is to your expression, the significant part is that you're willing to express it and able to express it. And that way, it doesn't put you back in that mindset where you were being bullied and you couldn't express yourself without being reprimanded in some way. So I think it really just depends on the circumstance. There are definitely circumstances where it's better to share when you're feeling hurt or angry or any strong emotion, frustrated, fearful, as well as the positive, joyful, happy, pleased, as well as beneficial to reserve, depending on the situation and the circumstances. I think that's important to include. So, what made you feel angry? Did they say something that triggered something in you? Did their lack of saying something trigger anger in you? Was it anger? Was it frustration? Was it rejection? And then why? So did you feel rejected because that's something someone else used to say to you? Did you feel rejected because that's just a deep-seated fear of yours, is being rejected? I know it's a common one. Anything like that. And then when you express it, say it calmly, just to get it off your chest. And that goes into the next one too. But just make sure you're at a good place where you're able to just calmly state why you felt angry or any other emotions that you felt, just to communicate with them and get it off your chest and not to punish or reprimand them. And then that goes into being responsible for your own emotions. So you are responsible for your own emotions, and other people are responsible for their own emotions. I'm going to say that again. You are responsible for your emotions. Other people are responsible for their emotions. So when you feel a certain way, it's not the other person's fault that you felt that way. It is your choice or your reaction to something. It's not always a choice, but regardless, it's your responsibility to, I guess, just accept responsibility for how you felt. If you start blaming other people for how you felt, you're not going to grow and improve. You're just going to harden relationships around you. In unhealthy relationships of any kind, sometimes when you feel angry, it's because the other person acted out of spite or in order to get you upset or in order to get you angry. And even though it's so easy to put that as their responsibility or their fault that you feel angry or betrayed, that you recognize that it's your lack of boundaries that felt that way. Maybe you gave them too much authority over your life. You spend too much time with them. Maybe you let them do something or like into a part of your heart that you weren't ready to share with them, and that caused a disruption. It's important not to say, wow, this person is the reason I feel angry, but I'm the reason I feel angry because of my lack of boundaries. And then going back to the other person, they're responsible for their own emotions. So don't attempt to make them feel anything when you're expressing your anger or your resentment. Just express how you feel. They may or may not choose to express how they feel. Either way, that's perfectly fine. Your point in expressing it is to get it off your chest and to build a relationship off of that. So that's what I have to say about how to handle anger. I'm going to do a little bit of reflection. So I am a person who has always held it in, not shared anything ever about anger because I didn't see a point. Like, why would you share when you're angry? Because it's your anger, and any sharing, there's no point. Like, there's no outcome that would make you feel better. Like, I didn't want to just share in order to get someone to apologize, which goes back to how each person is being responsible for their own emotion and their own feelings. But I also didn't want to share anger and be a bitter person. And through more experience and through more of sharing anger, I've realized that just expressing anger is reason enough just to not have to hold it in, and that expressing anger doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you bitter. It doesn't make you confrontational. It just makes you human, and you're sharing a very human emotion with another human in a safe space. In my journey, I've also went from holding it in. I'm a person that has very difficult time seeing middle ground. So I'm holding all of my anger in or lashing all my anger out. And in lashing out, there have been good moments where I'm able to reconcile after and bring it back to the middle. But in that moment of lashing out, it's definitely painful. I've said things that hurt people. I've said things that shocked people. Especially going from one end to the other, like, oh, this person never said anything. Amber never said anything when she felt angry, but now she does. Like, now she's lashing out. Like, where's this coming from? So bringing it back to the middle and just expressing you feel anger is a really good way to maintain both sides. So you don't have to hold it in. You can express it, but you also don't have to lash out and hurt other people because you're angry. You can just express it and say it, and that can just be what it is. So I found this tool very useful for people with anger on either side of the spectrum. As me, I've gone to both, and I've spoken with people on both, and they recognize that this is a helpful middle ground. So I hope this helps you and building relationships, and the more emotions we feel comfortable expressing to each other, similarly to when we feel happy or moved by someone, we want to be able to share that. I think it's equally important to share anger with someone. Because it's through both sides of the emotions that we're able to grow and build relationships and improve ourselves, know ourselves and each other better. Knowing each other looks like knowing if-then statements about the other person. When you talk with someone and get to know them, you're able to, in your mind, say, if they're put in this situation, then they'd probably feel like this. Or if they are told to do this, they'd probably want to do this. And that's part of how we form friendships, is the more if-then we can recognize, like, the better we know someone, so to speak. So when you're able to express different emotions on a scale from overjoyed to really hurt and devastated, it's easy for people to predict if-then statements. Therefore, they know you better. So I hope this was helpful, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen and want to grow yourself in your anger. So you guys take care. I don't know how to, I want everyone to feel rest after this, but I don't know how to produce that. So maybe just take a minute and breathe, do some deep breathing, or just sit and process in your mind everything that's been shared in case it resonates with you, just so you can process through it and get back to your normal state. So thank you guys, and until next time.